Reminder of our top story: France's biggest day of strikes and demonstrations in years, with protests against Emmanuel Macron's plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. Well, for more on that, let's cross to France 24 business editor Kate Moody. You're at the World Economic Forum. What's the reaction in Davos?
Well, Francois, French business leaders here in Davos are certainly keeping an eye on proceedings back at home, although they're largely trying to avoid answering too many direct questions on where they stand on this. Yesterday, Total's CEO said he didn't expect there to be major disruptions to his refineries. We know today that is not the case. Between 70 and 100% in some cases of the staff at Total refineries have gone on strike today. We'll be hearing a lot more about this tomorrow morning. The French Finance and Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire will be here in Davos. He will be speaking to France 24 at some point in the morning, so we'll bring you all of his reaction as soon as we get it. In a broader sense, though, this does play into France's reputation on the global stage as a place where it's not always easy to do business, where there's a lot of red tape, but there's also this very strong tradition of strong industrial action. I've been speaking to Julie Teaglin. She's a managing partner at EY. She says despite all that, there is some sympathy with the strikes going on both in France and the UK. Take a listen.
Right now, it's clearly having an impact, but France is not alone. If we look across the channel to the UK, both countries are highly impacted by the strikes that are going on as reforms are instigated, but also workers are fighting for fair wages in the context of inflation. It's having an impact on business as well and how we operate and the cost of operating businesses in those countries.
Yeah, and that's one of the topics. But I guess you could say if there is one person grabbing the limelight at Davos this Thursday, it's been the 20-year-old Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, she's in Davos, but wasn't even at the World Economic Forum. She arrived and held an event on the sidelines. And what was really interesting about it is that she was meeting there with Fatih Birol, who's the head of the International Energy Agency. Greta had come straight from the coal mine protest in Germany, where she was arrested earlier this week. There were actually 4 young climate activists present at this event from Sweden, Germany, Ecuador, and Uganda. The latter actually was in tears as she discussed the very real concrete effects of climate change on her home country, on her neighborhood, on the people that she lives with. She said that climate change is about people. Why is it so hard for people to understand the urgency of what is happening, she said. All of those panelists were very critical of a lot of the people who are gathered here at Davos, in particular the oil and gas giants, who they say are part of the problem, not the solution. The 4 held up a cease and desist letter, a sort of petition that's been signed by nearly 1 million people now, calling for an end to all new oil, gas, and coal projects. It was interesting to see their interaction with Fatih Birol, the head of the International Energy Agency. The activists said they were all pleased that he was there to engage with them. He said he agrees with that statement, that there shouldn't be any new fossil fuel projects brought into action. And he talked in particular about the amount of money that's been spent on LNG terminals in Europe in recent months. He said that money could actually help to solve energy poverty and things like dirty cooking stoves in sub-Saharan Africa. So quite a lot of focus as well on the effect of climate change on the developing world. The German activist said that she believes the European energy crisis is in fact a fossil fuel crisis, that her own government was adept at green headlines, not action. The activists all slammed as absolutely ridiculous the decision to host the next COP climate summit in the United Arab Emirates. It's going to be chaired by the head of a major oil company there. They all said it's a sign that those who are organizing and participating in those kinds of events aren't taking the problem seriously. Greta Thunberg was asked why she had largely stopped engaging with the so-called establishment at events like that. Take a listen.
Right now, the changes that we need are not very likely to come from the inside. Rather, I believe they will come from the bottom up, so to speak. Because without public pressure, without massive public pressure from the outside, at least in my experience, these people are going to go as far as they possibly can. As long as they can get away with it, they will continue to invest in fossil fuels. They will continue to throw people under the bus for their own gain.
And Kate, as they discuss how to arm Ukraine over in Germany, where you are, they're discussing how to back the Kyiv financially.
Yeah, we've heard pleas, of course, for more aid, both military and financial, from the likes of the President Zelensky, who addressed the forum just yesterday on video link, his wife, the First Lady of Ukraine, who gave the opening remarks here on Tuesday. There's been so much talk about the numbers, about the amount of money that's being sent over to Ukraine in support of it. Ursula von der Leyen, for example, talking about releasing $3 billion of the total, $18 billion that's earmarked for Ukraine this year. We hear different figures about how much Ukraine will need to get through the winter or eventually start to build itself up again. I wanted to know what this aid is really being used for, so I spoke to Beata Jaworczyk. She's the chief economist at the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development.
We finance 1.7 billion euros of projects in Ukraine, and we mobilized further 200 million euros from other financial institutions. We help to keep lights on, to keep the heating on, and to keep the trains running. Our trade facilitation program helps keep imports of essential goods coming into Ukraine.
So at the moment, it's very much the basic services, basic infrastructure, what people need to stay alive as this war is going on.
Absolutely. We are helping Ukraine make it through the winter. We are trying to make conditions as bearable as possible so that we can avoid another wave of refugees. Because when the time for reconstruction comes, Ukraine will need all the human capital it can have as to rebuild the country.
Kate Moody, many thanks. We'll be checking back in with you later from the World Economic Forum in Davos.